Hello and welcome to the Utropeia podcast. I am your host, Ken, owner of the Star Wars Cantina. And next up on the podcast show, we've got a bunch of stuff for you, like Build Mr.yu video. Oh my god, here he is, guys.
Hi. I really wanted to keep it very sing-songy, but I don't do that.
Then up next, it's Chris Moonjump. Moonjump!
Hey, my lunatics. What's going on?
It's canon now. I don't care. I don't care what anyone says. Moonjump fanboys and fangirls are only lunatics.
Yes.
George isn't a girl.
Does George like the moon?
Yeah.
Hi, George.
That is also now canon. It's Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon. And to Mariah carry us on to the next introduction, it's Saker, aka Skankass, aka Dimmsdale.
Hey, yo, calm down. You insulting me?
Huh?
Are you insulting me?
Yeah, I'm mad dogging you. What you gonna do about it?
Oh, snap. You know what? I will bow to your superior. We're in your court, my friend. When we get to
right.
Dystropy, I'll take you on there.
Oh, fine, dog. You want to roll? You want to roll?
Yeah.
You didn't know.
Bring it on.
And of course, as always, the very faithful, the very true Todd Ogredose.
I'm keeping my earth holes. I don't need their fancy moons.
Lunatics or Jack Hole Lanterns or I don't know. I don't know what my fans are. But hello, you're listening to the Utropeia podcast. This was a very interesting intro. We'd like to try different things here. This is a podcast where we talk about tropes in the media. This week we were talking about crossovers in all forms of stuff. It could be in anime or in Vidya Gaimans or Neil Gaiman's, like the comic books. That's a thing. And maybe
That is actually pretty good.
wait, should I? Okay. just a little bell, just a little
Just a
fun
little
bell.
bit.
Just a little reference.
I liked it.
Plus, like us on Facebook or don't. I don't care. Anyway, shoot. You know what? Usually we talk about stuff to catch us up during the week, what we're happy about, and what we're bummed out about. And you know what? I just gotta say, Robin Williams passed away not too long ago. Very sad. Pretty much all of the social networks and all of social media have been, posting about him and how much he meant, and it's a real shame. I don't want to start off on a bummer, but I just want to kind of get it out of the way.
Kind of have to address the elephant in the room on that one.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, he was in a lot.
I don't know one person apparently that was not affected by it.
It's weird because a lot of celebrity deaths, I don't know. I usually don't comment on this sort of stuff, or I usually don't. Not in social media, at least on the podcast, absolutely. But I don't know, man. It hit me hard. He was a good guy. I never met him, but it felt like I knew him my whole life. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's a sad death because we talked about the sad clowns numerous times.
Yeah, not that long ago
on the show, and and last episode we were talking about it. So usually the people who laugh the loudest cry the softest, and it's a real shame. Not only that he's gone, but he struggled so hard with depression. So it hits everyone a little harder knowing that, because we've all been through that kind of point. So I am particularly bummed out about his death as well too. I grew up watching a lot of Mork and Mindy when I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of old reruns of Mork and Mindy. So I was generally a fan of him, and I'm very sad to see him go.
Well, and I think in many ways, the one thing that especially really touches it is because I think almost everyone has an experience with a personality like his. Like, it's almost one of those you really take for granted the people who make you laugh the most until they're not there. Like you just accept that some people will make you laugh, and you never actually think about the other side of that for them. Because Yeah, I mean, he even apparently he talked about it in an interview I was listening to after his death, where basically he was talking about how being the comedic, the over the top character was actually very like physically and emotionally draining for him because you have to put everything on the table for it. And yeah, it's always very interesting that yeah, no, like the sad clown really runs true as a trope.
And I'm gonna speak to a point about something that Anna Cranberry was talking to me about earlier. She is out for this episode, but she will be back. Just that a lot of people treat depression as something that you only get when you're sort of down on your luck. But Robin Williams, who was loved by almost, I'd say practically everybody, and he was successful and well off. If it can affect someone like that, it brings kind of light to depression, and that's I'm sad to say one of the good things that have kind of come out of this is that it's being treated or looked at a little bit more seriously. But yeah, I mean, I don't mean to bring the podcast down, but it was an eventful a death. I guess there's no other way to say it. Now, if someone else wants to take this away, feel free to.
Steer away from the very special episode for a bit.
Yeah. just for a quick second. I guess I will be the one to turn the tables. The new Silent Hill demo came out, and that was I don't get very excited about scary games, but with Norman Reedus, produced and written by Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima, wow, that
It's like
demo.
a power team.
Yeah, it's just
You might even say it's a crossover. I'm sorry, is it too early to segue?
no,
That was easy.
it's not too early.
I forgot about that was easy, but
It's the anti-bell.
that's right.
Oh yeah, well, and what I love with that especially is because you're taking the two craziest people from their perspective mediums
Yes.
and mashing them together. One thing a lot of people don't realize actually is Hideo Kojima was actually originally he started off kind of working on horror games. Before he got big, he actually had plans back in the 5.5-inch floppy days where he wanted. This is like this again shows why Hideo Kojima could actually do really well with a Silent Hill game and is a crazy person. But he wanted a 5.5-inch floppy where the outer coating of it would actually be coated in a special substance that is
I
you
love this story.
you continued to play the game in the 5.5-inch on the old DOS system. The heat would actually affect the floppy disk and cause your room to smell of blood as you unraveled the murder.
Yeah.
I love the idea that like Kojima just wanted to like drug people who were
Yeah.
playing his game.
A play and sniff game.
Yeah, like we're talking about 3D but with ASCII graphics, That's
That was the game you're talking about is Snatcher, which is one of my favorite games of all time. But
Oh, it was
yeah.
Snatcher? No kidding.
Yeah, it was Snatcher. And
Yeah.
so what he wanted to do was he extensively play tested it, and he found out the average time at which people discover Jean-Jacques' body in the warehouse, and he wanted to time the smell release capsule to when you find Jean-Jacques' body, which I think is
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
That is so great. I think that just sums up Kojima in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he like I said, he's gonna be a fantastic Silent Hill director. I hope. I should add, because hopes and
Asterisk.
dreams. Yeah,
Asterisk.
but again, yeah, it's one of those. I think he understands the genre.
To me, it's a little worrisome. Like I know that Kojima understands the genre, and I think even more than that, he understands that Silent Hill. He can understand either that Silent Hill can be a very weird place because of there's so many weird sequences in Metal Gear Solid that seem out of place and unsettling. But the addition of Norman Reedus, I gotta admit, makes me a little nervous. I have no love for Walking Dead outside of the video game series, and it almost seems, I mean, like one might say a bad crossover where it's just like, oh, the guy in the zombie show, get him in this thing because it's also scary. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll do fine, but his inclusion scares me a little bit. I have no love for him, so I don't know.
I was actually thinking about that because one of our friends had mentioned it earlier, but I think the reason why they include Norman Reedus in it is basically because here's the thing, basically like Silent Hill has had a different director for every game in the series because they've never been able to keep someone long enough doing it. But especially the last couple set of games have been treated basically like bargain bin titles. Like they slapped the Silent Hill name on it and just went. And I think the inclusion of Norman Reedus is to show people in many ways that they plan this to be a AAA game.
They are spending the money.
Yeah. No, you're right. And Guillermo del Toro too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're right. Homecoming and Downpour were bargain bin stuff. I think they really, really wanted to on Revelations revitalize it, but boy, they failed badly. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is everyone like Norman Reedus is very well known for The Walking Dead, but obviously like the one thing I'll always remember him from is the Boondock Saints.
Yes, Boondock Saints.
Yep.
And so I think he can play the emotional range you would need for the game.
I'm sure, yeah. They're smart. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I shouldn't be concerned, but
you gotta be.
It's safe to.
I gotta be a little bit wary, especially when it comes to Silent Hill, because they just have a history of screwing up.
Are you just afraid that Norman Reedus is going to be on even more posters in college dorms? Is that what you're afraid of?
Yeah, that's basically it. I have that recurring fear, that recurring nightmare when I go to bed.
Very
There's Norman
specific
Reedus on
fear.
posters everywhere.
If you guys could comment on what that fear is called, I'd really like to see it just written out. Normal readophobia? I don't know. Whatever the Latin word for poster is, just shoved in the middle of that. Just let me know. Right. Sorry to interrupt you, Bill.
What, was I saying something?
Maybe.
I don't remember.
I don't
Oh
know.
my god, what a great trick. You just call somebody's name and just say, oh, I'm sorry for interrupting you. Say what you were going to say. Then they feel indebted to say something. Sorry. Anyway, Todd, go ahead.
Summer's gonna totally
Is it
switch things
actually
now.
my turn now?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm excited about. I saw Assault on Arkham, the new
Yeah.
Batman.
It's more like a Suicide Squad movie, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was actually really cool. Batman really isn't in it much until like
The end.
yeah, at least the second half.
Yep.
And it was really cool because like it was DC kind of taking a chance with one of their, because they always have to put like the big name in, and that's why Batman,
Batman
is in this, is that he's just like the pool name. But the first half of it, mostly the whole movie, should I say, is really just building with the Suicide Squad, and Deadshot's got a huge role in it.
Harley Quinn plays a big role too.
Yeah, and they have a really neat little like squad they put together. Like the lineup's pretty cool, and the movie in general was pretty entertaining. A little more R-rated than I thought it would be.
Is this their first R-rated animated feature?
I don't know if it actually is R-rated. It may be like a PG-13, but
It's probably PG-13.
yeah, I would say it is.
I don't know, like Wonder Woman had some pretty graphic violence in it.
There's a lot of
like
blood in this. There's like cursing all over the place. There's
there's
sex
directly
scene.
there's
almost.
directly sexual intercourse between
Well,
two
if
DC
anything, because
characters.
of the frickin' what is it, the MPAA? Like, if anything, that would have been what made them give it an R rating. But I don't know what the rule is for direct-to-DVD.
Yeah,
It could
and
be
rating
unrated.
system.
Rated PG-13 for violent sexual content and language.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Yep.
and it's in connection with like the Arkham video games, so it was a cool watch. I'd say give it a chance.
Well, the next thing up on the agenda, time, I don't know. Can I get it? That was easy, because this segue is just.
That was easy.
Thank you. I feel better. I just died like the owner of the Segway, the creator and founder of the Segway, while drinking chocolate milk and
How indignant!
I feel really bad about that segue. Actually, it's bumming me out. That's what I'm bummed out about this week too. Not to
You
take
should
away
feel
from...
real bad about that segue that killed its owner.
that killed its
I
owner.
will go into what I'm excited about if you want to get away from it.
I like that you removed all responsibility from the owner. It was just the segue that killed him.
No,
Like,
it
was
knew
malicious.
exactly what it was doing.
He was
That's
clearly
true.
out to get him.
That's true. I'm
That's
sorry.
that's what tipped him over the edge.
That deserves a bell. There we
And
go.
I'm back. Right. Revitalize. Okay. Any other bums or
I
pumps?
got. I'm excited. I was at Otakon
Yes.
last weekend, and that wasn't. But Japanime Games was there. Pretty much solely pimping out some Walk Food Dofus Crossmaster stuff.
Yay.
And I spent $110 there.
Yay.
Blind boxes.
So-
Buy more blind boxes.
I'm currently surrounded by blind boxes.
Where
and
are you?
My Frigost expansion that I got, so I'm super pumped about that. I've been like diving back into Walkfu stuff because of it.
I felt mr.yu and I were both there, and he had like not even enough dollars to buy another blind box, and I felt like I want to loan him money to buy a blind box simply because I want him to have a balance of 0 because I thought it was funny for some reason.
Yeah, I had $6 left, and he was like, "I'll give you the extra $2. Just go buy."
Sega's just an enabler.
I am.
Just spend all your
He
money.
ended up. He did get me on lunch though. Like, he
That's good.
gave me $4 extra so I could get a $10
At
hammer.
least,
Oh, that's right, I forgot.
At least you're giving him that too.
I guess, whatever. I really wanted him to buy a blind box and then not eat. What? Why?
And what's food for thought next is what you think of first when we talk about crossovers. Chris Moonjump, what do you think of?
Oh, I'm glad I got to go first. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, totally.
big day
Oh geez,
crossover.
I'm kind of upset I didn't think about that yet. Since I'm currently playing the second one.
I was actually hoping I was going before Bill's just so, I could get it out.
I want it first. I want it. What a heartless thing to do.
But,
It's just for nobodies.
You know what? I like it.
I've had enough of this. I'm gonna walk away.
Todd, when you walk away,
You don't hear me.
Thank you.
Because I knew it was coming.
This is my sanctuary.
Sea salt
Okay.
ice cream.
Oh, my stomach
Todd.
hurts, guys. I can't listen to this anymore.
Why, too goofy for you?
Oh.
all right. Anyway, Chris is
Cell just kept going to there. Nope, we're staying with Goofy.
Nope. Still there.
So, for anyone who doesn't know who's listening, Kingdom Hearts is a Final Fantasy and Disney crossover. And it's also a crossover for the respective series as well, because not only do you have Disney and Final Fantasy together, but you also have multiple Final Fantasy series and multiple Disney series all kind of mashed into one.
It's the game nobody asked for, but everybody wants.
Exactly.
Oh, hold up. I didn't want it. I hate Kingdom Hearts. I don't know. Sorry, guys.
No,
Wow, jeez.
you just need to play it and accept it. That's how it works.
All right. This is like death. Like, it's going to happen to everybody
Yeah,
eventually.
no, it does.
There are only two things that are consistent in this world: death, and that you're gonna play Kingdom Hearts and be okay with it.
Taxes
Death
are
and Goofy,
optional.
I think, was much easier.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's the title of a book.
Death and Goofy? Or the title of this podcast.
You know what? You're fucking right.
That was quick.
That was easy. No, that's a great example, actually. Like a really solid video game example, especially.
Yeah, well, and the one thing that I love with Kingdom Hearts, because it also goes in one of my examples of people who do it well, because it basically you have a universal crossover, but it also is not. It is a derivative of the two, but it doesn't feel like any of the two universes either.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate the fact that they actually have tried to give it its own kind of substance and canon outside of the fact of, hey, it's really cool that these two things meet.
rather than having like rubber hose animation cloud and having it be like super weird or having super serious. Well, I guess the Disney characters are serious, but they're not as grimdark as they could be.
At least one of
the
them
Final
is
Fantasy
still
U.
goofy.
Very true.
That was easy.
Just hovering right over that bell, debating it.
I deserve.
You got to me
I
first.
deserve that.
To the max.
I get it.
We always stick together.
Ah,
Todd.
Bill, it's time to stand up.
and shout out loud.
Above the crowd, even if I gotta shout out loud.
Well, what do you think of Bill, Mr. U Video?
All right, I have two that I immediately thought of. I'm not going to name one until Saker names his, just in case it was
All right.
his. But it was the Sonic and Mega Man crossover from Archie.
Wow!
Oh,
It was one
yeah.
of my first ones.
I had that written
I'm
down.
a little
really
sad.
loved that
I didn't
story.
think of that.
Yeah, if anybody hasn't read the Archie Mega Man, it is worth at least the first couple stories with Mega Man 1 and 2. But they like they're Mega Man nerds writing it. It's beautiful. But the Sonic crossover, I wasn't too hopeful on because the Sonic comic's been going forever.
Yeah.
And it's really bogged down by its own continuity. But you really didn't have to know anything about Sonic to enjoy the crossover. Like, you had to know about the games a little bit, but nothing about its, like, Archie comic stuff.
Mhm. That's good.
They did some
actually.
fun stuff in that too. Like they made
They also gave Mega Man power-ups based on all Sonic allies.
Oh, that's
they
cool.
made like they basically turned all his friends into robot masters. Like they roboticized
Whoa.
mastered them. And then Mega Man would get essentially their powers or like something to do with them. And he would, go through essentially the Mega Man weakness chart, but with like Sonic character powers. It was
Wow.
an interesting idea. It was kind of cool.
So they had like Mecha Sonic and what was the one for Knuckles? Mecha Knuckles, I think.
Yeah, but
No, they were, like Todd said, they turned them into roboticized masters. So it was like Knuckle Man, Tails Man.
Which I think leads
Rose
to
Woman.
the best joke in the comic, which is when Sonic and Mega Man have to fight Shadow Man and Shadow Man.
Yeah, like, you take care of Shadow Man.
Double Shadow.
It's true.
I have to admit, I'm kind of sad to know that there's not a big man.
Oh.
Well,
Not on
isn't
campus,
it?
at least.
Yeah.
I'll give it to
That
myself.
was easy.
I don't remember.
It's, you know what? It's a good blend of both. I accept.
I don't think Big showed up.
I don't think
That's
so.
unfortunate.
I remember
He's
enjoying
my favorite
it, so-
character.
You be quiet. Big is no one's favorite character. No one's. I refuse to believe that he is somebody's favorite.
I actually had my friend Aaron call me over just to beat Big the Cat in section. To beat his storyline, because I actually enjoyed the fishing.
Oh, God.
I was
Who
a
doesn't
very
like
weird
fishing?
child. Yeah.
He doesn't like Sega bass fishing.
Except for maybe the fish, but we'll get into that later. No, that's good.
Real quick,
Yes.
there are a hojillion pages on the internet, but Google only returns 6 results for Big is my favorite Sonic character. Just FYI.
6 is sort of a number of the devil, devil demons, devil Beelzebub, hell, the devil. But yeah,
And
Just wanted you guys to know that.
yeah, no, it's fine. You know what? I can't think of a good segue. Hey Todd, what do you think
I'm gonna
of?
keep the video game vibe alive.
Do it.
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yes, directly yes.
Um,
Good work, soldier.
And that's cool because, I guess Kingdom Hearts is similar too, where it's 2 different mediums actually crossing over. So you have like the video
Yeah.
game and then comic books. So,
Well, the first one was like the Infinity Stones.
yeah,
and then
they kept going with them. The third one had like Galactus in it, and you were fighting him.
whoa.
Yeah. So, I thought,
Yeah, I think the second one was the villain from the Darkstalkers games, Infernus
No.
or something.
Pyron? No, they made up Abyss is the villain in the
Oh,
second one.
thank
And he was
you.
just an original character for
Yeah.
You're right.
And then,
because they had
yeah.
yes.
Well, then Marvel did like with like Tatsunoko or not Marvel, Capcom, should I say, is done with SNK. Capcom does a lot of crossover fighting games, now that I think about it.
I think there was just a Capcom versus X-Men game.
Yeah, well, and then you've got Capcom versus SNK, and
it's a very.
It was.
No, go right.
Go ahead. Sorry. Nope, I'm being pedantic. It was Street Fighter versus X-Men. Continue.
Oh, was it Street Fighter? Okay.
Burn. No, Capcom is.
That was easy.
That was easy.
No, Capcom is very like crossover friendly. I guess, and usually the games are pretty fun. They're usually not heavy in story, but I mean they're fighting games, so that I guess you don't have a lot of huge story elements in those usually. But
most fighting games aren't known for their rich story,
but
unless it's the Naruto fighting game.
and then it's nothing but story.
And then just me and Ken.
Then I just watch the anime, but done with the in-game sprites. I'm not kidding. I'll get into that later.
Back
into the subject.
The endings. There you go. The endings for the Marvel vs. Capcom games are always usually pretty fun because they have like the Silver Surfer and I think Mega Man Zero were in one of them, and
the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 endings are so full of ridiculous cameos from all across both universes. It's like insane.
It's really great. But yeah, that's what I had.
No, it's a good one. I love Marvel vs. Capcom, and I feel like a fool for not remembering that they made a bunch of new characters and their own canon for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It's quite a ride. It's quite a ride to take.
Take me on that ride.
3 new characters.
3 new characters? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Amingo, Ruby Heart, and Abyss.
Yeah. What about the Monkey King character?
San is technically the daughter of the main character from San, which is one of Capcom's old arcade games. The granddaughter, excuse me.
Huh. And she was in the games?
Yes. She's the granddaughter of the main character
so
from the game.
So she's not in the game,
yeah.
she's just a legacy character of a character from a game.
They basically wanted a sexy version of the character from that game, so whatever, yeah.
You know what? Never mind. What do you think of?
Me?
Yeah, crossover.
I don't know. Well, I mean, when talking about Marvel vs. Capcom was definitely on my list, one of my favorite video game series of all time. But I love how. I mean, back in the day, it was Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, they should make a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter game." And everybody from Capcom and from Midway was just like, "That wouldn't work. Do you not understand animation versus mocap? Like, this will never work." And then when Marvel had Marvel vs. Capcom, I remember people going like, "Yeah, Mortal Kombat should make something like that." And then years later, they just took the joke to the next level and made Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, which always cracks me up because it's like the Nega version of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yep.
Yeah, which makes me really happy. But I wasn't thinking about that beforehand. But the thing that I think of, which is really silly, is the first crossover that I ever experienced as a kid, which was I used to read the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. Okay. And they had lots of crossovers from other properties from around that universe. The one I remember the best is when they crossed over with Cerebus.
Cerebus the Aardvark, yeah.
Yeah, Cerebus the Aardvark. Yeah. Which was, to me, as a kid, I understood that, like, the turtles were a little bit brighter than this very dark and brooding and angry character. I didn't quite understand that it was a crossover, because obviously Cerebus wasn't as famous as the turtles at that point. But whenever I think about crossovers, that one always pops into my head.
I thought you were going to go for Usagi Jumbo crossover with Turtles, which actually went from, it started in the comics. They're both two separate properties, and that actually crossed over into the 87 cartoon. Was Usagi Jumbo was in a couple episodes of the cartoon.
Yeah, there was a toy for it too.
So I thought you were going with that, but that's cool. I didn't know that they crossed over with Cerebus the Aardvark. That's awesome. Yeah.
And apparently, as I was doing a little bit of research, they even reference it in one of the video games when they're fighting a Cerberus. They say, this thing doesn't look anything like an aardvark. I don't know, that's stupid. But anyway.
Yeah, that deserves to
be. Good job.
But yeah, that one, just because it's the first, popped into my head.
I totally thought you were going to go with Fighters Mega Mix, Saker.
Ooh! That's, well, I have under my Who Does It Well. I'm not going to get to it yet because I'm not Anna and I know the order in which. Why am I doing this? She's not even here. What's wrong with me?
She's sick, dude. Why are you doing this?
I'm joking, Anna. I love you. But like I had written like Marvel vs. Capcom, Smash, Mugen, Fighters Mega Man, like every one of, because there are a hobillion of those crossover fighting games, and each of them are good in their own particular way. But yeah, anyway, Fighters Mega Mix. I'm surprised I didn't say it either. And good call. I love Fighters Mega Mix because it appears normal at first glance, like, oh, fighting Vipers versus Virtua Fighters. They're all humans. That's all cool. And then the more you unlock, you're like, oh, Sonic characters? Oh, I'm playing as a tree? Oh, I'm playing as one of the cars from Daytona, USA? The game just gets progressively more insane as you unlock characters. So, yeah, good call.
I dig it. Okay, rounding it all out, everyone else went to sort of video games and comics about video games, which is awesome, but I mean, we can talk about this more for Who Does It Well, but I went to Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That was my first go-to, like the two biggest names in like animation, Warner Brothers and Disney, just on screen.
The only time we'll ever see
I also like that you looped it right back to Disney as well. Like we had this like ongoing, continual like loop with this.
Yeah, we started off with Disney and video games, and then it went right back around. That was my first thought. I went to some other ones too. I'm just gonna say it as a joke. Almost all of Scooby-Doo, and. Yeah.
Scooby-Doo movies.
Like, there was a period in just the 70s where it was Scooby-Doo meets...
Yes, Don Knotts, Batman and
Mama
Robin, Harlem
Cass.
Globetrotters.
The WWE.
Yes, just over the weekend at Otakon.
No.
Yeah, I turned on the TV and I was like, oh,
The
It was on
Wolfman.
every
what
day.
is this? And he was like, oh, it's Scooby-Doo with WWE. And I was like, you're stupid. What is this? And then, like, John Cena showed up and knocked a boulder
Yeah.
off a cliff or something. I was like, this is...
And it plays
It was
his
Cena
theme
amazing.
music.
That's actually from the cartoon. I did not make that up. I'm not dinging it.
God.
I want to give a quick shout out to Jetsons vs. the Flintstones as well, as
fair enough.
that was one of the first ones I ever saw really of a crossover. So
I love that movie.
Let me tell you how much I love that you didn't say Jetsons and the Flintstones. You said Jetsons versus the Flintstones, as if they were like fighting to the
I
death.
wish that would have been
It's canon
so
now.
freaking
Jetsons
awesome.
meet the Flintstones.
That's why you don't
It's-
slip
Or is it
Flintstones
Flintstones
anymore.
Jetsons?
Oh god, that's the best slip up I could have ever possibly made.
I love it.
But we've covered a good gambit of different material. But I think it's important to ask, why would someone do a crossover? Why is it special? What makes it? What is the main reason that someone would probably do a crossover? I know it's very obvious, but I think it's maybe a little important to talk about in terms of like marketing or toys or I don't know. Like it can be a big milestone in certain people's lives. I'm gonna go in the reverse order actually and go with Saker. And move my way that way.
Yeah, I think you nailed. I think for me there are two big reasons. Number one is pretty obvious, which is the cash grab, which is if one series is doing well and another is flagging, you might introduce a character from one into another just to kind of boost ratings. I had under Who Does It Badly. When Urkel jetpacked his way into Step by Step. Step by Step's ratings were failing, and a little bit of Urkel never hurt anybody.
Except for
for Carl Winslow.
I do remember when that was airing.
But cash grab. But then I think the other one, I'm sure there are more reasons, but the other one that springs to my mind immediately is just pure, like, just love and joy for each of the products. And
giving the fans what they want. Yeah.
well, yeah, not even the fans in some cases. The one that sprung to my mind immediately under Who Does It Well for me was Cross Epoch. I don't know if you guys ever heard of this.
Nope.
But so Eiichiro Oda, the guy who does One Piece, it's
Oh yeah, the Akira Toriyama
yes, he
crossover.
adores Akira Toriyama. Like, he is in love with Akira Toriyama.
Insanely.
And
There, can I go into
Yes,
a story real
please,
quick about
please,
that before you explain this? There was an interview in one of the One Piece like books they did, like the art books, where he was interviewed with Akira Toriyama because they did that crossover, and it's just literally the whole interview is Oda gushing over Akira Toriyama, and him just being so dismissive of Oda. It's hilarious. Because at one point he tells him that he practiced drawing hands and armpits the most as a kid because he really liked the way Akira Toriyama drew him for Ranfan and General Tao,
Oh, from
his
Dragon Ball.
character. But he's like, yes, so I practiced them really hard, so I think I do really good hands. And Akira Toriyama's just like, you do all right. He's like, yeah, I'm not very good at it.
What a douche.
Chala, chala.
Yeah, but yeah, just like, he loved Dragon Ball so much that out of his own personal love for it, he was like, I gotta do something. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's like Luffy and Goku team up, and Bulma and Nami are teamed up, and like they all have their own little stories that kind of like.
Oh,
merge
that's really
together.
neat.
That's fun.
Yeah, you should read it. It's really short. It's like 20 pages or something. It's just a little one-shot manga.
That's really neat.
And it's all fan translated. So that's all I got. Is cash grab and love of the game.
No, it's good. Any other thoughts on about just crossovers in general? Why someone would do it?
I think you're missing the most important reason why someone would do it.
Do tell.
Is because the ongoing war on drugs.
I have that under
Oh
I
my
present
God.
to you Cartoon All-Stars to the rescue.
And I was going to talk about propaganda and public messages later, but we need to tackle this now. This is important. We have to talk about Cartoon All-Stars to the rescue. It is... Oh my God!
I wonder if there's a link of
Because
it
I
out
was-
there. If there is, we have to link it in the description.
We did it in a friend of mine
I'm gonna
does a
write that
stream
down.
every Saturday of old cartoons, and the weekend we did that movie, we crashed the live stream. So many people came in to try to watch it.
Here you go. I'm gonna shoot I found the link. I'm gonna shoot it over to the stream so you can post it with the thing.
Okay, yeah, I'll just take that out pretty much.
And I also gave, I don't know why, but if you're ever curious who the cameos and the endings from Over's Cupcake 3 are. Okay, the end. Bye.
Okay.
Get back to it though.
But no, that was insane. Wasn't that not commissioned, but pretty much put forward by George Bush? Not George W. Bush, but his father.
No. I think it was Reagan.
Really?
What?
I think it was Nancy
Yeah,
Reagan.
what year was it out?
Well, that was still back when.
Oh no, it was the introduction from First Lady Barbara Bush. Yes, you're right.
Yep. Oh yeah, First Lady Barbara Bush. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, and that was still when you had the comics advisory.
The comics
committee or
code.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, and that wound up being one of the first ones. I know that they actually had a portion of that where Stan Lee was talking about it, where he dealt with like that was one of the major taboos in comic books, was dealing with it at all. And then basically after Stan Lee broke into it by having Spider-Man help a kid with cigarettes.
He was high on marijuana.
Oh yeah, and yeah, then basically after that the floodgates opened and you wound up having everyone try to go for all of that government money.
Yep. An after-school special, as they were known. Cartoon All-Stars. Cartoon All-Stars.
That's the gritty reimagining of it.
That's the grimdark Michael Bay reimagining.
Oh, because it
Cartoon
have Ninja
All-Stars.
Turtles in it.
It has everything in it. Everything that was popular in the late 80s, early 90s
Yeah,
was
but
in
it
it.
was like Alvin and the Chipmunks were in it, and
Yep.
Muppet Babies.
Garfield.
Alf is back.
and he
Alf-
wasn't
Pog
even
form.
in Pog form.
Bugs
Slimer
Bunny.
from Ghostbusters.
Yup. Back when
The
Ecto Cooler
Muppet
was still on the
Babies.
show. Oh,
I think
God.
there was-
Baby Kermit.
Wasn't there a Lion
Yep.
King character in it too? Oh no,
No,
I'm still
you're
thinking
still
of
thinking of
Cartoon
All-Stars.
All-Stars. Damn it, you beat my joke.
It wasn't hard to.
Long live the king. But God, that cartoon, it had everyone and everything in it, just that was popular at the time, and it was the biggest piece of propaganda I think I've ever seen, other than a French cartoon that involves Popeye, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy bombing the French for Nazi Germany. It's in a cartoon called Nimbus Libere. Yes,
Libere.
Nimbus Libere. And it directly has them saying, like, is spinach better in France? Who cares? Let's just bomb them. And it was supposed to be a pro-Nazi cartoon in the 1930s.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh my god.
no bien.
No, ce n'est pas bon.
Se no bien.
Well, and yeah, that's always one of the things that's very funny, where you kind of get the in-house collaborations for small stuff like that, because sometimes it winds up just being kind of very like a blow-off series, or it's like an anniversary. I think is one of the other ones we didn't cover
Yeah, that's
in terms
very
of
good.
reasons. Like like one of the ones I feel like did it really well for most of it, and then got really weird towards the end was Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles.
Oh god, from Clampu?
Which basically took, your main characters from Card Captors and then put them into every Clamp series possible, and then it got weird.
Yep.
I think
Every
just
possible iteration of Clampu, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was their
Yeah.
multiverse.
Yeah, and then they fucked around with a tree and everything went bad.
God.
I think Japan in general just looks at crossovers a lot different than we do.
Yeah.
Because talking about like in the Showa era for Kamen Rider, it was standard practice to have the writers from the series previous to the new one to show up at some point in the show.
That was
And
getting into one of the ones
Okay.
I thought was did it well. Actually, is
Yeah.
Kamen Rider Decade.
oh, Decade is nothing.
Decade
God,
is-
it's like if you like Kamen Rider at all, you need to watch
Yeah,
Decade.
it
at
was
some point.
just the crossover of crossovers. It was like, hey, you
But,
like all the series? Okay, here they are.
Here's all of them ever, and then a cameo from the next one. But also like Super Robot Wars.
Mhm.
Like
Is that your example of who does it well? Since I think we're gonna just flow right into that
yeah,
section.
we can segue into that because they do it really well. Like that's something that just couldn't happen here, like at all, because copyright and I know most of the properties are Bandai, so it doesn't really like Namco Bandai, so it doesn't really matter. But if you like any kind of mecha series, like the Robot Wars games are just like the best because you get to see characters interacting from different series. I know one of the favorites we'd always joke about was when Rei Ayanami meets up with Hiro Yui, and then they just have a
Best
conversation that's nothing but ellipses.
Beautiful.
Just dot
awesome.
dot dot.
That is exactly
So, yeah.
how it would go.
Oh, see, and I love from Super Robot Wars, like, one of the things that I thought was kind of hilarious for that was, they actually include a character from Saga Frontier with Alkaiser, and gave him a mech, like, and even, like, patterned the music off of him, even though it was supposed to be for someone else, totally not a Square property. But, yeah, and I think you're right on that, but, because Japan does definitely view crossovers in many ways very differently, whereas we kind of homage by using style, like they homage by actually including.
What Japan does do, as well as what I accidentally did earlier, where they do a lot of character versus character, and that usually just means they have a misunderstanding, kind of fight a little, and then they team up.
Well, shoot, they don't even do that sometimes in Conan vs. Lupin. There was no actual struggle between Conan and Lupin at any point in that movie.
They were just totally cool and just a big handshake and a smile.
Well, half the movie they didn't even interact at all, and I think it was at the very end Conan figures out that Lupin's in disguise, but they kind of like have a winking moment, and then he's just gone. But it was still called Conan vs. Lupin.
Oh gosh, kind of like for the Batman versus Superman movie that's coming up. Like it's no one knows anything about that movie. It's
Dawn of Justice.
I don't know, man. I don't know if they're actually going to be fighting or if they're actually going to team up. Who knows? They're trying to shove all of the Justice League into that
yeah.
movie instead of doing a
Can I
series like
segue
Marvel.
something
but-
real quick? It was my.
Just don't stay away from
It
the
was
cliff,
my
okay?
other example of who does it really well is the Justice League. I love how this whole episode is like oddly connecting one point to another.
It's a stream of content. It's the best crossover we could hope for.
I thought of when I was thinking of like who does it well, I thought of like the Justice League and the Avengers, because these are all separate properties with all these different heroes, and then they're like, let's put them all together, and then they made ongoing series out of it, and now they're incredibly well known, both of them, by
Yeah,
everyone.
I think that is something that's something people forget about American superhero comics. Is that the Justice League and the Avengers weren't a thing originally. Like they kind of viewed all of the stories as separate universes. And I forget, who shot first, but one of them decided, hey, what if we took all of these characters and put them on a super team? And then after that, it was just like, oh yeah, we need to do that with all of them.
Well, and it's funny because you like, I mean, you even look at that continue on now where you get new things like Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Yep, and that's all DC inclusive, pretty
Yeah.
much.
And even for like lesser known characters.
Yeah, you were getting
too,
like
you know?
B and C list characters in that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Or just public domain like Sherlock Holmes.
Well, there's
Yeah.
been, I mean, Batman and Sherlock Holmes have had a history, haven't they?
Yeah, there was a comic where I believe they had a team up.
But is Sherlock Holmes himself? He's not a decent character. What am I
Well, no,
saying?
yeah.
Well, I mean, some are so well established within the canon. Like Dracula is kind of considered a Marvel character sometimes, not because he originated in Marvel, but he's got such a presence within the universe.
Well, there's a Batman vs. Dracula story too.
That's true. It got an Emmy.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Dracula
Yeah, the,
backwards is Alucard.
Oh
No.
my God.
I love
Hold on. I have to make a call to my doctor. Acula.
Oh, no.
that. Was literally one of my favorite pictures I've made. It's just the picture from the Batman movie, or from the series The Batman,
Yeah.
where it was
That's-
the scene where he's holding up the tray he wrote Alucard onto a mirror, and I just put World's Greatest Detective under it.
I love Bizarro Batman because he just kills people and says, "Who killed this man? I will find out. Me, I'm world's greatest detective."
Bat Zorro?
That has nothing to do. Bat Zorro. That's right. He loves guns. Exact opposite. I'm sorry, Chris. Were you done with your Who Does It Well? I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. There's so many broad examples for it, but yeah, I mean, in terms of great ones, that would be really it for me. I mean, you could go into kind of like Warner Brothers history and things like that, where they do a lot of crossover cartoons. Like I mean, hell, Looney Tunes does it on a
Yeah,
consistent
Daffy Duck
basis.
Bugs Bunny cartoons are some of the best ones.
They
Yeah.
all interact. Like practically all of those Warner Brothers cartoons do. I mean,
Well, you always
when you've
had
got, like-
like Yosemite Sam or Elmer Fudd would kind of switch between like who they're antagonizing,
yeah,
but it
Bugs
seemed
or
a lot
Daffy or-
rarer when Bugs and Daffy would actually
Yeah, or
team up.
there was a couple with
Yeah.
like Bugs and Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah,
That's weird.
there were, and he used to talk. Or was that? There was another one. There was like a wolf, I think.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
there was-
say
I
it
think
was.
that was just a little throwaway.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was
cartoon.
Wile E. Coyote. Yeah, because the wolf was with the Morning Sam, Morning. Yeah,
Oh, that's right. But it was like practically the same character
yeah,
design,
it
except
was
he had
a
like
red
a red
nose.
nose.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the one thing.
It's weird, but to somebody who's not an aficionado like me, like I've never seen a distinction. Like those aren't crossovers to me because it all feels like this is the Looney Tunes. It's not like this is Bugs and this is Daffy
Mhm.
and now they're doing something together. It's
Well,
just like they're
it's-
all one contiguous unit to me.
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that, but it's another one of those things that, like I said, you didn't think about with like American comics because it's just been that way for so long.
Right.
Because when they started doing these shorts, it was like the one character was made before the other, and then they were in separate movies for most of the time. So when eventually they would cross over,
Right.
but yeah, like later on, then it's like that's standard to have, Tweety hanging out with Daffy and Bugs.
Yeah, just having them all as a gang. And I guess there's a difference between like in-universe crossovers and then just like multiverse crossovers, I guess.
Well, I would say, there was also in Tiny Toons they did the Bosco and Honey.
Mhm.
Oh god,
They
yeah.
weren't. I don't think Bosco and Honey were Warner
Van
Brothers. I'd have
Buren,
to look
maybe?
that up.
But we can find that out.
Yeah. Don't halt the podcast.
It's okay. I can edit this out, but I mean, and I probably will, but it's fine.
Whatever.
But
Oh no, he was technically Warner Brothers, but it just
Okay.
wasn't as popular because it was like the Rubber Hose,
Mhm.
and Bosco might have been slightly racist in the beginning.
Maybe. I mean, with those older cartoons, it was kind of
That was standard
yeah.
practice.
yeah, unstandard. But Saker, who do you think does it well? Since you bring that point up.
Well, Let's see. I mean, I've used most of mine. A couple that I really enjoy. You know what? I'm not even going to bother with that one. The one that I think is really more of a stylistic choice than it is one specific thing that does it well, which is
Okay.
when the crossovers are less crossovery and more. This is a character, we're in a shared universe, but the character doesn't exactly have like you know, uh, he's not in front. For example, there's an episode of Community where Abed is talking about Cougar Town, and he's actually in an episode of Cougar Town. He's just sitting at a table in back, and then he comes back to Community, and he talks about his experience because he's obsessed with Cougar Town for a while for some reason.
Yep.
I just finished reading Brian Lee O'Malley's follow-up to Scott Pilgrim, not a sequel at all. It has nothing to do with the universe, but in one panel, Scott and Ramona are in a restaurant with other characters. I just like that because it adds a sense of continuity to a shared universe that's not in your face. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, this is a Community crossover, and so here's a Community character, and there's something that happens with it. Like, it's just these characters are there, they're around, and here's a little background joke or something that just shows
A
that
little
this is a
callback
shared
or
universe.
something like that.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that in a crossover. If it doesn't have to be blatant, it doesn't have to be commercialized. It can just be, maybe a loving tribute or maybe just a little nod or something.
Kind of like how you can see the characters from Tangled in Frozen Snowman Comedy or the Viewisk universe also.
Oh, God,
Kevin
yes.
Smith's work.
Oh, man. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Yeah, I love the Viewers
likewise.
universe. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
huge...
because even with that, you have like Brian O'Halloran plays. It's always a Hicks. It's like Dante's cousin or something like that. And in every movie he's in, he plays a relative of Dante, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I really like that too. Yeah. So just little background stuff is, I think, a way that does it well. Yeah, that's about it. Everything else we've discussed.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about a stylistic choice actually, which was the Lego Movie, which kind of contains a little bit of everything that we've been talking about. Maybe sans Kevin Smith's works, but but it has like the Justice League, and it has like all of the Lego canon. It has the Ninja Turtles. It has characters from history, but it's all one big creative multiverse, and it's all in the Lego style, which has been gaining a lot of speed and a lot of recognition lately. Because there's been a Simpsons Lego, and there's been Marvel Lego and DC Lego. All kinds of stuff have been adapted into the canon.
Lego Batman games are so good.
Oh, and Star Wars too.
Yeah, well, and I think it's one of those things where actually, being kind of the resident Lego fanatic on this one, the one of the things that actually that they did really well with the movie and things is basically being able to kind of mesh each one of the universe philosophies from the Lego sets. Because each one of them actually like contains their own separate backstories and things, and they do kind of mix it together. And I think the great thing about the movies, because they still keep a very like adult level for it, where you can still enjoy the movie, but it is almost like the way a kid would play with Legos. Is he would mix the sets. But it wouldn't necessarily, like, he'd be like, let's try this really cool fusion between space and, jungle, like, the adventure sets, or...
Jungle Space.
Yeah.
Sounds like the best crossover ever.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta go contact a guy about my next comic real quick.
But yeah, and that's, and it's one of the things that I especially love with that, because it's kind of celebrating the way... because for a lot of people, like, they don't actually even think about the fact that Lego would have a storyline, but a lot of that's due to the current CEO of Lego, where he's done such a good job developing the intellectual property of it. And especially being able to get so many people in on it. I mean, one of the things a lot of people don't necessarily realize is, pretty much every kid has Legos, because, no joke, it is 11% of the toy market in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so I mean, it really is a very unique opportunity for them because they have so many sets and they appeal to such a wide variety of people. I mean, they even had little homages to things like very short run sets, like their first Lego sets for girls, which were the Paradiso sets,
Yep.
which were not good, but
Maybe not progressive, but
they weren't even really all that great in terms of pieces. Basically, they went, girls are kind of dumb, so here's very simple building blocks. Like, we're not going to do any like side building or anything else. They
that's a shame.
They were meant to be very simple and dollhousey, and and there's a reason why it tanked horrifically.
Yeah.
Good one on that, marketing.
Yeah.
Good job.
That was the early '80s. They didn't know any better.
They didn't know
should've.
that women were
Didn't.
equals or anything like that.
No.
Speaking of who does it badly,
Real quick before we segue into a cliff, you had mentioned Jungle Space, and it put me in mind of
Yes.
somebody else who does it really well, which is has anybody ever played the card game Smash Up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody here is.
someone brought it to my house. We played it. It was fun.
Snap! Wait, hold on. I think I forced. Never mind. I get it now. Anyway, jokes and jokes. Smash Up is. I'm super into board games, and Smash Up is kind of a cool board game because I hadn't even thought of it as a crossover until this moment, until you mentioned the words Jungle Space, which are two completely separate ideas that don't seem like they should go together. But the idea of crossovers.
Well, you can have a space jungle, but
Oh, sorry, my fault.
It's okay.
The idea of two separate things coming together is so ubiquitous and easily understood that Smash Up's a card game where it's entirely dependent upon tropes. You pick two tropes and shuffle them together, and you have your dinosaur aliens or your ghost zombies.
That's what I had last time I played.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, robot dinosaurs and aliens.
I remembered. Phil. So
did
the idea of just taking two separate things and putting them together is novel and fun, even if they're just tropes and not even well-established canon series or anything. It's just got an appeal where you mash two things together. I don't know why it's appealing, but it can be.
It is.
Well, the thing is literally this trope is one of the oldest like ever that we can tell. I mean, one of the ones in doing my research for it that I totally forgot about is Jason and the Argonauts, where literally the Argonautica is every single character from Greek mythology is now going for a thing. And that's the Golden Fleece. But
yeah, I wouldn't even have thought of that, but yeah, that's totally like different stories essentially being mashed together
Yeah.
into one.
Yeah.
and
There's our history one.
yeah.
We always have one.
We try, we're a classy show.
We're very
We
occasionally
cultured.
with
want to
education.
edutain you
Yeah.
with goofy and death and history.
You and your literature.
Thanks.
But yeah, so it's one of those. There is definitely something in people that loves to take two universes and see what happens when you put them together.
You got chocolate in my peanut butter.
I'm allergic to peanuts.
Okay, so who does it bad?
Certainly not Reese's.
Boom. And
Well,
boom goes
unless you're-
dynamite.
Allergic to me. Yes, we're all allergic to me, so unsubscribe. Have I asked Todd if he wanted to go first? For who does it badly?
Alien vs. Predator?
You gotta specify here, because that arcade game was...
Oh my god, so good.
No, specifically the movies. Because there were like a million comics of like Alien vs. Predator. There's like Batman versus like Predator and stuff like that. But that first, at least, well, I don't know. I never saw the second movie because I don't think I could bring myself to see the second movie.
I fell asleep for every scene that was not a death or fight, and I think I got the most out of that movie when we saw it in theaters. So good on you.
Yeah, I don't think like Predator vs. Alien is like, it's not a bad idea at all. I think it was just executed poorly. And it's like, well, it's the same thing with like Freddy vs. Jason. where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you came here to see these two awesome things fight, right? Okay, here's a bunch of people. And like, why do I care
here's a bunch
about
of things.
this?
Yeah.
It's more like Freddy co-ops with Jason.
Well, the Freddy, and I'm not defending this movie because it's still crap, but Freddy vs. Jason actually took the very stereotypical monster versus movies like Godzilla and
Mhm.
stuff, where they
Yep.
would fight at first and then team up, or team up and then fight at the
Mhm.
end. It's just and it's the same thing with like 70s Godzilla movies. Is like you have to have that human element there because nobody knows how to just write a movie with fighting in it yet.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Just
Mm-hmm.
It
Bad
was still
execution.
terrible for the line "dark meat" alone.
God.
That movie.
Oh my god.
and didn't Freddy vs. Jason have like a character that was pretty much just Jay from like Jay and Silent Bob?
Really?
Yeah, it was like the
I wouldn't be
biggest
surprised.
rip-off character.
Was it just Jason
It
Mewes?
wasn't Jason. It was like bargain bin Jason Mewes.
A Brazilian
And
knockoff
it
Jason
was like,
Mewes.
this is obviously this character. Like, he's the big stoner, but he pretty much looks like, yeah, just like this, like, poor man's Jason Mewes.
Wow.
That's a series that's gotten spun out because it was Freddy vs. Jason, then the comics went like Freddy vs. Jason versus Ash, then Freddy vs. Jason versus Ash versus like Pinhead or so. It kept spiraling
Mhm.
out into more and more horror tropes. I've never read any of the comics, but I'm kind of curious.
Because they're all Miramax. Like, they're all under the same property.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know that.
because, yeah, in one of the Smodcast, Kevin Smith's podcast, which maybe I listen to since I know some things, Bob Weinstein was talking about having Jay and Silent Bob meet up with like all of the Miramax monsters. It was going to be the reboot of all of their monsters, so it was going to be like Jay and Silent Bob meet Pinhead, and Jay and Silent Bob like versus Freddy versus Jason versus so on and so forth. And that was Kevin Smith kind of bowed out of that one.
No thanks.
No thanks.
interesting.
I'd rather work on my own stuff for a bit. And then he made Cop Out, which, was a different thing. But, bonus points for trying. It's all right. He talked about it. He's cool with it. But, yeah, that was kind of the reasoning behind those characters maybe sort of spiraling out of control the way that they did.
I see.
But all of my examples are children's programming. I'm just going to go into it. The Jimmy Timmy Power Hour with Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents. I think it was done poorly, and the big reason is because of style, because none of them really translated well into the other ones.
Yeah, the models they did for Timmy were disgusting.
Yep.
Like at least Jimmy Neutron didn't look too bad in the flop style, but it still looked like out of place.
It because his humor just didn't translate very well either. Like they would do like weird. The faces are very simple in Fairly Odd Parents, and they can do like some funny like reactionary sort of things with it. But for Jimmy Neutron, they had like a lot of dialogue based stuff, I want to say. I don't know. It just didn't seem to translate very well for like the humor and styles. And they would comment about like, why is this so flat? Why is this so bulgy? And I do remember the one scene where there was the tug of war between 2D versus 3D that just seemed off.
It was an odd movie.
Right around the time when 3D animation wasn't really perfected and just sort of starting out and getting a good foothold, back when Shrek was considered maybe a good movie. Maybe.
Well, and what I actually, one I would want to bring up is who does it poorly, because it winds up being one of the first like massive like outcries
Go for it.
in terms of like public viewing. Would be, have you guys ever heard of the Timmy Westfall hypothesis?
What?
Go
for it, man.
Yeah, the Tommy Westfall hypothesis is basically that like dozens or hundreds of shows have occurred in an autistic kid's
Oh, the
mind.
same house
I-
where.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I hate this theory.
Yeah, but
This is up there with me hating like every kids cartoon has to be the kid's really in a coma or having a fever dream.
Yep.
yeah, well, and this was the first one that really tried to pull that on a relatively popular show. Like, it had record turnout for the series finale. And they go, "It was a dream all along in a snow globe." But the problem, and it's one of those that actually shows how it can be done poorly, and in many ways a caution to avoid it when it comes to your own writing, is because you're crossing over so many series and making like small cameos of people and stuff like that. That's how this one happened. Is basically because every show wound up having a cameo from some other show that was the hotness at the time. You basically all get dragged into a continuity that's not as good as you think.
I
Like-
mean, I buy that, but I think that's almost, and it's totally valid, but it's almost like Mystery Science Theater theme song. Like, it's overthinking it. It's just a show. Like, if this character's in the background, I understand that I guess technically the universes are related, but yeah, it's a classic overthinking it, I think.
Well, yeah, and but yeah, it's just one of those like, it's interesting. It's interesting to see, like we were talking about earlier. It seems like really whenever you give examples of doing it badly, it's almost exclusively in the cash grab category.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Okay, I think we've reached a pretty good gambit for who does it badly.
Well,
Or
it's not just the cash grab, if I may.
You go on. What's your final thought?
I've got a few who do it badly, and for different reasons, none of which are cash grab. My first one is when the crossover is just too friggin' weird. My thought for this was, has anybody ever heard of Dream Mix TV World Fighters?
No.
Is that the one that is the Toei properties or something?
It's Hudson, Toei, and Bandai.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you can. It's Smash Brothers. They were trying to cash in on Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It's Konami too, because you can play as like Solid Snake versus Optimus
Yeah, I was
Prime.
say, wasn't that the one with Optimus Prime?
Versus Simon Belmont versus Nika-chan, who's basically the Japanese Barbie. So it's like got all these separate. Like, the thing that makes Smash Brothers work is that everything is kind of cohesive in that, these are all video game characters. Conceivably they could all fit into the same universe. It's got a playful style about it, but these are like, Solid Snake, grim, dark, and meanwhile, like, Barbie is, Barbie. Like, it's just too weird and it doesn't make sense.
Isn't the kid from Beyblade's in there?
Yes, the kid from Beyblade is in there as well. That's correct. Yeah, Tyson in the US version. Or I don't actually know anything about Beyblade.
We won't rip on it too much.
That bell has gone underused this episode. It's kind of amusing. Yeah, and I can't think of many crossovers that fall into that too weird, except for maybe called Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue.
Yeah.
But another one is when it's just straight up boring. And Bill, maybe you can understand why I'm saying Project Cross Zone for that one. Were you? Yes, you were in the car. Okay, I've been playing Project Cross Zone for 40 hours at this point, and it's one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. It's a crossover for the sake of, like, the characters in it are all like, well, now we're in this universe, let's try and find a way out. Well, now we're in this universe, let's try to find a way out. Well, now we're in, like...
I will definitely agree with you on that. Is because, like, I loved the idea of having the properties kind of mixed together, and the game mechanics actually are pretty solid. The story is abysmal.
Oh, it's so... I bought the game because it's got the guy from Dynamite Cop in it. You know what I'm talking about, Chris?
You mean Bruce Willis?
Bruce Willis, yeah, it's got Bruce Willis in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I put Bruce
Him and
Willis on
Tracy
Mega Man
Morgan
X's team.
teamed up in
Oh,
that.
it's wonderful. But yeah, it's boring as hell. And I'm sorry, I won't take up too much time, but the last one I had that I'm pretty sure we can all agree with is when a crossover gets a character wrong, like they don't understand a character enough and they try to interpret him in the wrong way. And my thought for this one was Captain N, the Game Master.
Yep.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I
which,
agree,
yeah.
Kiss.
Yes. Kid Icarus and Simon Belmont and Mega Man are the three worst offenders.
Mega.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simon Belmont was like the exact opposite of what Simon Belmont actually is.
Basically.
Because Simon Belmont is in the games is pretty much like Conan if he was going to kill vampires. And the Captain N made him this pretty boy who was always hitting on women. It was like you could not get a more polar opposite character.
And that's a really rare occurrence, is when, the original creators have no say and whoever's interpreting it just gets it so friggin' wrong. But
a great example.
I do want to point out, because this is one I thought of that was bad for personal reasons. Some people might like it. But Mario Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, boring.
Yeah, that's another one.
If there was anything, Nintendo and Sega, huge rivalry, right? All the way up, and then Sega bombs. And then we start getting, Sega games on Nintendo products. That was weird. But, so, when they announce a game where they're going to be, crossing the two characters over, that's, a huge deal. If you were in the 90s, sometimes it got heated on which was the better series.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you finally get a crossover and it's just this super cheap shelfware game to cash in on something that happens every 2 years, then
it's just something that you're able to remake. And I mean, it's the Olympics, so everyone knows about it. So I don't know. It's just if you want to. This is just my personal opinion, but I don't really care for sports games. If I want to play a sport, I'll go and I'll play that sport because that sport exists. A video game for me is fantasy and an escape, and I like to play in a space jungle or jungle space or what have you. But yeah, Wario on a trampoline is I could get on a trampoline. I could go wah every time I hit the trampoline. I could eat a lot of garlic, and I do because I hate vampires. And that's canon.
And I understand you can get out there and play the sports that you could play on your video game console, but can you play soccer as a robot?
Yes.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Can you play baseball as a robot?
I believe you're forgetting that you're talking to our resident golem, so yes.
I'm practically a robot already, but made out of pumpkins.
It's true.
It's canon.
That's canon.
It's canon.
It's canon.
That's what canons are all about. Todd and Chris Moonjump, any final thoughts?
No, I think we really had a very well-rounded discussion about crossover.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, in terms of, because we usually do advice and things here as well, but it's crossover. It's it's one of those, you can mash two things and see what happens when you put them together. But remember that, it's like we talked about, where sometimes some things just defy kind of that mashup. But if you want to do a crossover, do a crossover.
Well, and it's hard to say, what you would prefer out of this, because
there are many ways to do it.
Exactly, it can be dramatic, it can be comedic. Yeah, so it's a genre basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think the best advice we could give is what Saker brought up: is just make sure if you're doing a crossover, you understand the characters you're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's actually good advice for. Because there's lots of amateur crossovers there, and they're called fanfics.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and most of them are not good.
Yeah,
most of them are about Naruto.
That might be true.
I'm writing one right now.
Go out and write your Naruto X Disney.
Go out and write your Naruto X Utropeia fan can.
Yes!
And send them to us.
Somebody,
God, I hope that doesn't become a
somebody
thing.
get on that.
Someone help us build a subreddit and get on that immediately. Okay, since we're wrapping everything up, I will not forget what next week's topic is, which I believe is superpowers. And I'm going to, we've talked about some favorites, we've talked about some broad ones. I think it's been a while since I've brought up one that I don't necessarily care for, and that's the stretchy powers. That's elongation.
Hey.
So I know that there are characters that do it well, and I'd like you to fight me about it. So next week we'll be talking about the stretchy powers, and this week I have been your host, Ken Pumpkin, and I'm going to go up and then loop back around. So Chris Moonjump.
Hey, thanks for coming, guys. Let's be on the moon.
Were you done? I'm sorry.
No, that's all good.
No.
I liked it.
I'll see you later.
And Todd?
Thanks for joining us for my favorite crossover, the Utropeia podcast.
And Saker,
Aw.
crossing over from the Dystropia podcast and
Yeah.
being a permanent mainstay.
Yeah.
That's great for season 2. We've been doing really well with you on the podcast.
Oh, shucks, thanks. See, I never saw, I'm not a Utropia aficionado, so I never saw us as individual units. I just saw us as one collective. So this isn't really a crossover.
So we're
Moonjump,
the Looney Tunes.
Okay.
Then. All right. got it.
basically. You knew that. Anyway, goodbye.
All right. Thanks for listening, you guys, to the Utropia podcast. We trope you found what you're looking for, and until we, I'm keeping it in.
love it.
I don't care. And until we talk geek next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.